Hello, everybody, and welcome back, maybe for the final time in this particular format, to the Resident Evil Resistance Honest Q&As. Now, I've got another batch of questions today. I hope to get through them all today. Those are the only questions I have left. If I get more on this video, enough for another part, I'll do it. Again, it just depends how much demand there is. But otherwise, let's say if I have 3 or 4 questions that are asked in the comments for this video, then I will answer them in my conclusion video to the series, which I had it suggested to me the other day by a source who prefers to remain uncredited, but he gave me an idea and I am going ahead with it. To close the series, I'm going to do an honest tier list of every player, well, not every player, but all of the notable players, most of the players I've played with a lot, just loads of the players who are veterans at the game, and I'm going to rank them from F tier to S tier. One by one, I'll give my reasons why, and yeah, it's going to be a real under the microscope end to the series, and as I say, any little extra questions, if I only have 3 or 4, I'll answer them in the tier list as well. If I get more, I'll do another part. But otherwise, we'll be building up to that tier list, and boy, I haven't even begun, I can't even remember the correct tense. I haven't even begun to think of just how many people I'm going to include and who will be in what tier yet. It will mostly be on the fly. I will just say what I feel at the moment and put it together. So that's something to, I say, look forward to. I'm sure it will make some people unhappy if they are in a tier they do not believe in. But as always, it's my opinion. It means nothing, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's to come. But for today, we have some more questions. And we will start with Ruby Riches, who asked me a nice question of who the most underrated players are. Now, I've got plenty of people for this, and I'll start off with Hat-Trick Hero. This is a guy who doesn't play anymore, but when he did play, he was very accomplished, very comfortable playing many a character, and yeah, just a good, reliable team member who would be sensible, who would do mostly the right things at the right times. And he was just a good guy as well. He was always polite and nice. And even if we were playing with babies or randoms, he'd keep a good attitude. He wouldn't down tools and give up. He was always a trier. He was a good player. Definitely underrated. Another one of a similar ilk is Amazing Cart. Again, good with most characters in the game. I think he's very good with all the girl characters, and then he's capable elsewhere as well, but they are most of his mains, and he's very good with them. And yeah, again, just a lovely guy, really good player, and yeah, didn't ever really get praise from anybody. Like, again, don't get me wrong, I know Cart is an under-the-radar player who, not many people would have played with, so I get why he's underrated, but nevertheless, he's a good player out there who never really got the credit he probably should have got. Following on from this, someone who was more well-known, but who still wasn't quite given enough credit, is Ricky Boy Leeds. Again, played so many characters to a good standard. He was good with Tyrone, good with Val. He could play anybody you really wanted him to, and he'd pick characters and not make a fuss either. He'd play him to a good standard, he wouldn't complain. He was a nice guy. Again, not that being nice makes you underrated, but nevertheless. And yeah, just a thoroughly good, solid player. Next up, I mean, we've gone, 5 minutes without me mentioning her. So, yeah, it's my Tacitus Kilgore up next. She's great. She doesn't get enough credit. She's really good with Sam, really good with Jill, fantastic with Valerie, and capable elsewhere too. Like, I've beaten many a good mastermind with her Becca, her Jan's good. She's just, and obviously I haven't even mentioned her Martin yet, my favourite Martin in the game. She's just an all-round really, really good player, and yeah, obviously someone who I treasure a lot, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna over-egg her ability in the game. I'm just saying it as it is, and she is really good and doesn't really get enough credit for it. Next would be probably the most well-known player out of my underrated list. It's Aarons. Aarons gets credit, but I don't think quite enough. Like, people just sometimes think of Aarons as, a good Val. Really good Val. And that's your lot. And it's like, no, Aarons is... When I was asked the question of who I had the most synergy with last episode, I did say Kara, but Aarons, when I've been Jill and he's been Jan, or the other way around, yeah, that's probably one of the best combinations in terms of just the same wavelength that I've been on. He's really good with Jan, really good with Jill, amazing with Valerie, obviously. And yeah, he's just a very, very good player who can play loads of players, who can play loads of survivors. Next is Storied Tortoise, specifically his Jan. Now, don't get me wrong, he is underrated in general. His Tyrone is really, really good and isn't held to as high a standard as it should be. He's obviously really reliable with Val and the likes as well. But his Jan, he just gets better and better with Jan every time I've faced him. He was always good with Jan, but, back in the day, you'd still be able to, sometimes get away with things against him, have a cheeky air cannon here and there, and, it's not like he'd be easy to take on at all, nowhere near at any point, but he just kept improving and improving with Jan to the standard where he is now with her, and he's just super upper tier. Like, he'll cover the cams at the right times, like he'll balance the camera on one side, have the other camera low on HP as well. Like, it sounds like basic stuff to like the best Jan players, but to get it done at the right moments without being under attack and under threat is really difficult still. And Tortoise was somebody who has now nailed that. So, yeah, fantastic Jan. Really, really, really good Tyrone. Really, really good Valerie. He's just an all-round really good player. And then I'm going to breeze through the last few because I don't want to stay on this question for too long. But Agent Fox Mulder is a really good player. He plays in solos and duos. He's a really good Sam. Summer X Rose back in the day was always a really good Martin who didn't quite get enough credit. Believe she beat Pep and Keck and was one of the main driving forces behind that win. Stitchy is seen as one of the better Jans, but she really is proper near that upper tier. And I also think Miguelo was a bit underrated as well. Maybe not so much as others I've listed, but yeah, he was a really, really good mastermind and a very capable survivor as well. And I don't know, he never really seemed to truly reach the tier that I think he'd be capable of. Like, he wasn't given the chance, because as a player, yeah, I think he was really good. Anyway, with that all out of the way, 10 minutes in, we move on to Xbox Clown, who asks me more of a simple question: what makes my personal perfect match? It sounds generic, but just both survivors and the mastermind having a good competitive game. Like, I don't need to go into too much depth here, I don't think, but when I think of like my perfect resistance match I'd like to have, it's, you know, me winning as survivor, obviously, but just a really good competitive fun match where everybody can use their abilities properly and their skills. The mastermind isn't completely shut down. He can show his way of countering the survivors and give them a challenge, and you have to be on it to really, get the better of that mastermind. So, yeah, generic answer, I know, but at the end of the day, the game is at its best when it's fast-paced, competitive, and just all-round entertaining. A Missing Person then asks me for the most versatile player. Now, I do believe that I am in the top 2 or 3. I do think Adrian is number 1. Like, he is... I'm trying to think. Is he below an 8 out of 10 with any character? I don't think he is. I've seen him use everyone, and he's brilliant with everyone. And I'd say I'm very, very good with most characters, but I haven't played enough to be good with Martin, and my Tyrone does let my average down as well. Everyone else, yeah, I'm more than capable with. But I'd say Adrian is the most versatile player overall. There is another few though. Ex Nihilo, he's really good with a lot of characters. I've seen him do really, really well with, obviously, Jill. He's a really good Jan. His Valerie is very good. His Becca can do a job. He's filled in capably as Tyrone. Like, yeah, I don't think X gets quite enough credit for how versatile he is. And then Jared can play a lot of characters as well. And someone I mentioned in the underrated players is again here. Storied Tortoise can play a lot of characters to a high level. Jill Sandwich then asks, who are some of the players that I'd have liked to have been closer to or known more about them if I could still talk to them? This question's tricky. See, I think for the most part, I am close to the people I'm close to because I just am. That's who I vibe with the best. Those are the people that know me the best. And anybody I know as a friend, they are a friend. As an acquaintance, they're an acquaintance. And that isn't for good or bad. Like, it's just how, personalities mesh together and work. So yeah, it's a difficult question. I think there is one or two who can fit in here. First one I will mention is Kai. He is somebody who I got on well with. As I mentioned last episode, fellow Brit. We had similar humour and styles and attitudes. But I never spoke to him like one-on-one, or not enough. We're mostly just, having light-hearted conversation in teams. So, yeah, I didn't play with him enough in a team anyway. So getting to know him, like, I think he'd be a really fun duo queue partner, who you could just waste a few hours with and talk to about whatever. So probably him. And then another person in that same type of environment of where I spoke to them in group settings, but rarely one-on-one, even though in the group settings we got on well, was Izveska. She was always lovely, polite. Me and her got on really well, but I just never really spoke to her one-on-one. So, yeah, I guess that would be my main two, Kai and Izveska. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, there's some players who I didn't really overlap with much, who, if I got to know them better, it would have been interesting. But I think those two are the main ones. Natty91 then asks, the biggest resistance simps. Yeesh. There's a few. I think Beast God is the most public with his simping. Any and every girl, he would be just up to their face with how unashamedly creepy he could be. Like, he'd just be all over girls and put them on a pedestal no matter what, and it was just uncomfortable. So he'd definitely take number one for like the pure definition of simp, where, you're purely just catering to a girl and that's it. And it's just in an uncomfortable way. So yeah, definitely Beast God. I do also believe Mike is a bit of a simp as well. It's more in a friendly way. Don't get me wrong. Nobody compares to Beast God for being creepy. But there is also people like Mike who, will be that extra bit friendly to the girls than he is to the guys. Like, there's a difference in Mike's voice when Sam joins the party in comparison to Joan, for example. There's nothing wrong with that as such, but it does fall into simpy territory. So I will say Mike, and I guess Mouse as well, actually. Like, Mouse again isn't as creepy as Beast God, but he's kind of got the Mike vibe where, yeah, those two are more overly nice to girls, and Beast God is just a pure creep. And yeah, that's what it is. Next up, Knight of Ren asks for the Backbite Master. Against me personally, it would probably be Dom and Joffrey. Those are the two who seem to, do the little swipe setup and then backbite me the most consistently. I will partly credit that to the American region lag as well. Those dash punches from Samuel can be exploited by the mastermind with just a little bit of delay. But no, those two were definitely the most consistent against me. Ren then asks for the MM with the most creative and scary presets. Now, I've seen a lot of fun, good, effective presets from a lot of different masterminds. Like, some non-top tier masterminds would have fun presets and good presets. Even Genji with his trap explosion placements were ones that would take you by surprise on the first time you'd face him, and then after that, less so. But yeah, I think the mastermind who was the most feared when it came to presets was Rat Labs. Those trap explosion placements he had were varied and quite frightening, to be honest. But Lin Kuei had some good presets, and most of the top tier masterminds did. Some of them would be good at having a leg hold around a specific corner that they could exploit. Some of them would be using air bursts at every opportunity to stall. They'd activate them and just, waste a few seconds. And again, I know even those people like Lin Kuei and Rat Labs, they would have taken inspiration from others for their presets. So there's people I don't know about who would have amazing presets that I haven't named. But yeah, Rat Labs is definitely the main preset guy that comes to my mind when I think of that type of thing. Ren then asks who the biggest hypocrite is. Now, there's a few people who are pretty hypocritical when it comes to general attitude about how they're being treated. I've talked about that in previous parts, but when it comes to like pure hypocrisy in terms of the game, there's like 3 that stand out to me. The main one, who I still see play today, is Otaku Manu. He voice line spams constantly, but doesn't like it when it happens to him. Any win he gets as Survivor is against someone toxic and is fully deserved. But when he loses as Mastermind, it's a glitch win, it's unfair, the game's bugged. He accuses loads of people of stream sniping. Like, it's just very hypocritical, caught in 4K. Like, it's not even funny. Another one would be a pretty obscure one, but I don't know how it's pronounced, but Rojaz or Rojas Dracul. He did Sinister Spencer builds on his YouTube, and God, again, he was one of these people who would be so easy to jump on any little thing that went against him when he was Mastermind, but if he did something lucky or something went in his favor, it would always be earned, it would always be this or that. So, yeah. And then I think Tide Time, one of the more popular Resistance YouTubers, was also very hypocritical. He'd do matches where he'd be stomping on babies or whatever, and he'd be loving every second of it, dancing, wiping them in Area 1, just kind of taking the piss out of them, really. But then when he'd get beaten by a SWAT team in overtime, he'd act like it was the end of the world. So, yeah, more niche picks there, I think, than maybe would be expected. When it comes to drama's sake and attitudes, there is hypocrisy, mainly from Pickle and people like that, but I'm not going to go into that because I've already gone into it in previous parts and I don't want to rehash. But yeah. Next, we keep going. And it is Thomas Equinas. Do I have a most memorable match, whether it was Survivor or Mastermind? There is a couple. I remember the Babies match where I was Nikolai. I was against Babies on Bemusement. I talked about it in the previous part again. I let them get as far as they could, and it was a really fun match, seeing just how they acted. One of my most memorable matches is actually a defeat. It was against Lin Kuei on Casino. I believe it was me. Was it the tournament team? Me, Kara, Aoife, Izvetska, I think. Anyway, I was Tyrone. I played really well. And then at the end, I can't remember the specific circumstances, but there was, yeah, that's right. So I had I had a first aid as Tyrone, and I went to open the door. And obviously, when I pulled the door switch, Lin Kuei just gunned me down with a machine gun. The usual, what happens when you pull the switch. And I was down, and I didn't. I had a first aid, but you know, they had to get me off the floor for us to get out, and then we all had to group up and get out. And that kind of led to a situation where I got downed before I could use my fever, then he dropped a Nemi, and I think he killed everyone else, or he killed 2 of them, and somebody tried to get out, but they couldn't quite. So, yeah, we played it, like, perfectly, and then it was just a mistake, a dramatic mistake at the end. But it was an amazing match, and I'm honestly surprised that Lin didn't upload it, because, or maybe he did and I missed it, but yeah, that was a really, really good match. And then other memorable matches include me losing to Alexis, to be honest. Multiple times. I would say for bad or good, but it's for bad. Virtually every time the memorable matches are the bad ones. But yeah, I've uploaded 1 or 2 of them. They are horrendous. They will be burned from my memory at some point, but not for the next probably 30 years. So yeah, unlucky me. And then Thomas Equin asks, if I could add 1 mastermind in Bioweapon and a survivor, who would it be? Pretty generic answer, but I'd have Wesker as the mastermind and him as the bioweapon as well. Like, him just deploying himself would be great and entertaining. And then I think Leon as the survivor, again, generic answer, but I mainly come to the conclusion by the fact that, you know, Martin, Sam and Tyrone, none of them are heavy gun damage characters. Whereas Leon, you know, you could focus on his shotgun, give him really high damage with that. I would like to say Carlos would be my first choice, but again, I think that Carlos would just be like Sam or Tyrone, where he's just too physical, based on punches, like he was in the remake. So yeah, I'd say Leon for the sake of, you know, versatility in the roster. And then Winchester asks, how many wins and losses I have against Lin Kuei, not including customs? Look, Winnie, I do not know. I don't know. Like, at first I was going to say, oh yeah, I've beaten Lin Kuei's Nikolai a few times in quick match, so it's about 4, and that's it. But reality is that I've beaten his Daniel multiple times, his Alex multiple times, his Nikolai multiple times. Everybody I have beaten from him. I'd estimate I'd have about 15 to 20 wins. And obviously, like, 50 plus losses. I don't know how many it would actually be. But yes, I can confirm that I do not keep notes on my phone of every time I lose a match against a notable mastermind. Like, no, I don't update it after every loss and be like, I've gone from 9 wins against Lin Kuei in the last 6 months to 10 wins. So I can't answer your question correctly or accurately, I'm afraid, Winchester, but we've both had some good wins, let's just say that. And then finally, Sammy D Drums says, so now that Nicolas Cage has been added to DVD, what celebrity would I add into Resistance? 1 mastermind and 1 survivor. Oh boy, you could take many avenues for mastermind. You could do something like Donald Trump, make him just an utter arsehat and a pain to deal with. Or you could go with something what I'm going to go with. I'm gonna say Justin Bieber. I think that would be fucking hilarious. Like, you just see the most, you know, the main picture of Justin Bieber, like when he started his career, with the bowl fringy cut, and him just looking at the camera with a little smile. That could be his mastermind icon. And then his voice lines can all be annoying songs of his. Now, I'm not going to be generic, and I don't know why I'm going on about Justin Bieber in a Resistance Q&A, but Justin Bieber does have some good songs, but we know he has some annoying ones as well. That's my point. Put the annoying ones as voice lines, and then you'll have some arsehole who just spams baby, 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 oh, as they down you in overtime. So that would be good fun, or not. And then as his bioweapon, it can just be, what are his fans called? Beliebers? Oh god, I should not know that. That's fucking cringy. Yeah, I think they were called Beliebers though, weren't they? Anyway, that can be his bioweapon, a whole horde of Beliebers chasing you through the map. So, yeah. You can tell I haven't put too much thought into this. Or maybe I've put too much thought into it. And the survivor, I think I'd say Michael Jackson. You know, he could do the moonwalk for his personal skill. I don't know. He can moonwalk under locked doors or something as his personal skill. I don't know. And then, you know, some of his choreographies and dances from his music videos can be incorporated, like Thriller can be a fever skill. I don't know where I'm going with this, okay? I don't know enough exciting celebrities to be able to give a properly fun answer, but there you go. Justin Bieber for Mastermind, Michael Jackson for Survivor. Otherwise, I don't know, Lionel Messi as a Survivor. Be fucking hilarious seeing him kick a football into a camera and getting 20 seconds. So yeah, we end on that. 35 minutes. This should be the last part. We will see if it is. It has been a pleasure. Thank you all for listening to me talk for what must be like a combined 4+ hours by now with all the parts I've uploaded. I've loved doing all of it. Thank you all for getting involved and engaged. If you want another part, ask questions. It will not end here if you ask enough. If I only get 3 or 4, as I said, a reminder, I will be doing that tier list video of just as many Survivor mains and masterminds and whatever as I can think of. So, yeah. Don't know when that will come out. Give it a couple of weeks at least for me to work my head around it, because I am going to be busy for a few days in the coming week. So we'll see when that gets put together. But anyway, I am rambling now. Point of the story is, thank you for joining in this story. It's been very fun. It's been controversial at times too, I'm sure, but no hard feelings either way. It's just my opinion. We know that. It'll get forgotten within a couple of weeks at most, if not less. And that's the fun of it all. The views have been good. I have milked it beyond belief. There's been fun questions, silly questions, interesting questions, and to be honest, Winchester, what the fuck was that question asking me if I played with Dom and Pep? Like, you can ask me anything. It's an honest Q&A and you ask me that. Crazy. Anyway, on a serious side, that will do us. Another 36-minute video. It's been a joy. Have a lovely day. Let me know what you'd like to see going forward, and I will catch you all later.